Hello, everyone. This is Liberty Bernal, and you are listening to Motivated with Liberty. I'm super excited to introduce you to today's guest. Well, a few reasons. Okay, first of all, I know this guest because she is a client at my fitness studio. So that is really how I know her. She happens to be really, really tall and really, really beautiful. But the more I got to know this guest, I realized that she has a really interesting life. So I am going to introduce you to Andrea Miller, otherwise known as Mrs. Miller online. Andrea, I don't think I could do you justice to read an introduction or make one up on my own. So today I really hope it's okay. It's like a surprise. I'm going to have you introduce yourself and then we'll dive into all of the motivating and inspiring things that you do. But without further ado, please welcome Andrea Miller. Andrea, welcome. Yay. So if you
I'm
would
right.
get right into it, girl, and talk nice and loud so we can hear you.
Perfect. Well, as Liberty said, my name is Andrea Miller. I am 31 years old and I live in North County, San Diego area. I have been teaching middle school math for the last 10 years. Before that, I was living in Ohio for 10 years. I went to college there. I got an undergraduate degree in middle childhood education, concentrations of math and science. I also played soccer in college. That's how I got to Ohio, where I played at the University of Dayton. During my teaching, I was coaching high school soccer as well. A couple of my soccer players convinced me to join TikTok. So it's probably one of the main reasons people know me by as Mrs. Miller. Make funny social media videos online that are all based around me being a teacher. And then, yeah, I love doing Pure Bar here with Liberty. That's my current workout.
Your soccer career is amazing. I feel like every time I find something out about you, it's like, what? Whoa. And honestly, I wasn't really on TikTok before this last week. So I literally don't know how to use it. And I just recently made a post that I didn't even mean to make. And my coworkers were like making fun of me and stuff. But what you've been able to do is take what you do as a teacher and your really funny sense of humor and share videos that people really love. And for anyone listening who's not familiar with Mrs. Miller, I mean, Andrea, you have like a lot of followers on TikTok. Is it 1.5 million? Am I right? Or is there
Uh, it depends on if you're cumulatively taking all of my social media followings or just basing it off of my biggest one, which is TikTok. On TikTok, I have 1.2 million, but on YouTube, I'm over 700,000. So a lot of
amazing?
people, a lot of younger people know me based off of my YouTube channel. But then I also on Instagram and I dabble with Facebook too. So
Wow.
cumulatively, I think I have about 2 million.
That is so amazing. So let's back up a little. So you got some nudges like you should share stuff. But I have to just say, even for myself, like I've been trying with social media for years, right? I have like 2,000 followers. Um, and I think what makes you unique, is it is your sense of humor. Like the sticker store I see behind you, you talk a lot about these stickers that you order as a teacher and how inappropriate they can be. And that's really funny. But I think for anyone who hears about someone who became a real social media influencer, because that is what you are, did you set out to do that? Like, what was step one for you? What happened?
Okay, so basically it was the fall of 2019. I was coaching high school soccer at the time, and I think we had a rain delay, so we were hanging out underneath the bleachers, and I was watching these girls on the other team make a dance, and like TikTok dancing was a very big thing, and I'm like, what are those girls doing over there? So it was a Bellbrook Soccer in Ohio. It was these girls doing a TikTok video, and I asked my own players, I was like, what are they doing? And they're like, oh, they're making a TikTok. You should ask Peyton. She was one of the coach's daughters. She's actually pretty famous on TikTok. She used to do nail videos. So she would like make these little nail videos and they would do super well on TikTok. So she was showing me her like 2 million view video that just happened overnight. And I was like, what is this app? And I'd never seen the app before. And that night I downloaded it and I was just like scrolling through. I remember saying, oh, I'd never make a video. But I kept seeing teachers make content. So I was like, oh, like people, like everyday people like me are actually doing this stuff as well. And I actually, my first or second video I ever posted got 2 million views. And it was
What?
like the dopamine of getting the views were like going up and up. I was like, wow, this is so cool.
Do you
And I didn't
even
really
know
get that
what
many
you
followers.
did? What was it? It just
I
got caught
do.
up in an algorithm, or you're so amazing? What
Oh,
was
I
the
think
first
it was
video?
basically it was this trend to an audio. There was like a popular audio and people were putting really really sad clips to it, so it wasn't really a sad song, but people were putting
Okay.
like a sad clips just so like main characters and move like Mufasa dying, like
Oh,
those type of things. And like posted, I don't know if you watched The Office,
oh yeah.
but there's a really viral moment in The Office where Kevin walks in with his chili and he like drops the chili.
Yeah.
And so I put the audio to that clip and I kind of edited it kind of cool. And lo and behold,
Wow.
that was the start of me wanting to go viral over and over again because of that one Kevin dropping the chili video.
That's
So
so interesting to me. Like, that's what started it.
so I know that still was before I think I posted any like teaching content. And it wasn't really until maybe early 2020 because I remember, no, I posted a lot of videos before. So in that winter of 2019, because my sister during her maid of honor speech, I got married in January of 2020, and she was like,
Oh, wow.
listen off all of the things that I was doing. I was like, I was coaching full time, I was teaching full time, I was working at a restaurant full time because we were saving up to move to San Diego, and I was getting my
Oh,
master's, planning the wedding, and my sister like
oh
followed it
my
up by,
gosh.
and she's trying to go TikTok, and she's trying to be TikTok famous, and like the whole like 200 people at our wedding like laughed, and I'm like, my origin story. I think I had like 5,000 followers at the time on TikTok, but so I must have
Wow.
been posting some teaching content then. But
Yeah.
when I moved to California, I think I had about 20,000 followers by the time I moved in May of 2020. And it wasn't until probably 2021, 2022 when I started getting like the 100,000, 500,000, the
Wow.
million.
That's
Exponentially
so,
got
you're like a
more.
million, no big deal.
It was a really big deal when it happened. I thought it was like the coolest moment of my
It's
career.
so
So
cool. I remember watching that video of you, like when you had him, because once it clicked to me, like, holy cow, Andrea, like my Andrea client, you are like, and you know, my friend Brian, who's also very famous on social media. And I was like, how do I know two
love Brian.
people? And when I know, here's what I think. And I would love to hear more of what you
Brian's
think.
amazing.
He's amazing. What I think, though, about you and Brian and anyone else who continues to put themselves out there, and why I thought it would be wonderful to interview you, which I have interviewed Brian as well, a little bit before he had millions. I mean, I need to bring him back. It's the vulnerability, honestly. I know you're not, I mean, you're sharing things you want to share. It's not like there's a camera following you around like a reality show. You also know that sometimes things will go over well, sometimes they won't. But you, I mean, think about where you came from. You came from this Midwestern state. P.S. I grew up in the Midwest. Like, just it's like a little different vibe there than here in California, right? It's also, I mean, you're teaching soccer. Like, you weren't necessarily putting yourselves out in front of that many people, to where now you have this flip in life where you're obviously still teaching and doing the things you originally set out to do, but now you have this, it's not a side hustle anymore, right? It's like a major thing. I mean, you have like representation for it, but I just think it's the ultimate vulnerability, because there's an element of social media where it's constant judgment, and you are very positively received, and I believe you always will be, and you're amazing. But it's scary, right? Like, how is that going now that you're really in it? you surpassed that million, that aspect of
Yeah.
that's super
Well,
inspiring to
really,
me.
the scale, I usually stick to pretty safe content that I know that the people like. So my main content Liberty kind of talked about is I show inappropriate stickers that I won't give to my students. I have all these violations that, like, if it checks any of the boxes, it's just not worth my time to give them to my students. And it's always funny because people always think either the videos are super super real or they're just super satire. And like it's just that's like what the comments kind of make fun of. They're always like, she can easily give this to her student, or no she can't, or they get mad that I'm even showing it to the camera. It's like it's all across the board. They're either mad that I won't give them, or I'm mad that I'm even showing them. So it's just like the
You
whole
can't
scale of
win.
the comments are always, I can't win, but it's not really stemmed like towards me. It's mainly stemmed towards like them arguing about the difference between those two scales. So with the comments that get me are when they're like, she can't be a good teacher when she's doing this kind of stuff. So I think that's the only kind of comments wise
Mm.
that I always like take to heart. Because the crazy part is when like the comments are kind of fun, but when I see people in real life and they recognize me. Like I go to my local
Oh.
Target is real close to my house, and I get recognized there. So those are like the kind of crazy things that, like, you're talking about vulnerability, and then I'm like holding some laundry detergent walking through Target, and they're like, "This is Miller."
My daughter recognized you. She was like, I've seen her on YouTube. That's so
It's always
cool.
like and then they like look at you, and I'm like,
Aw.
"Oh, like, is there something on my shirt, or do they actually recognize me?" So then I get really awkward.
You have nothing to be
So
awkward about it.
prefer when they say something like, "Oh, Mrs. Miller," as opposed to like just like staring
The
and like getting
eyes.
nervous.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have another question for you that just come to mind when I think of all the things you do and you're like, okay, teaching is my main gig, but I also do this. What I really admire about you is that you seem to make time for all of it, Andrea. And you are married, so you make time for your husband and the kids you teach and your social media fame and creating new funny things, and you work out, like you're always in the studio. Is that something that's inspiring, right? And talk about motivating, that you're not necessarily seeming, at least, very overwhelmed by it.
My husband would say the opposite. He says I don't hold my stress very well. But if you
Oh.
look at my class activity from May, you can tell that during the school year, I'm very good at getting all of my teaching things done first. So
Yeah.
that's usually like my bar. So if, like, my teaching stuff isn't done, then I'm probably not going to be making a video, or like editing really is my issue, because I'm always
Right.
take the content in the morning before school, and then I teach the whole
Oh.
day, and then I get home, and if I'm exhausted, that's when I'm editing my videos. So really, it's like if the teaching stuff isn't done, usually it kind of like waterfalls. Then it's like, oh, then I won't post content. Oh, well, then I won't go to Pure Bar. Oh, well, then I'll probably eat out instead of cooking dinner. So
Okay,
it's
so
like
you're a normal
just kind of
human.
have to, yeah, it's just my priorities kind of have to be in line, and it always
Yeah.
just stems during the school year. Whew, it does get challenging. My husband 100% helps me in ways that like people never know. Just making
Oh.
sure like if he's cooking dinner probably 5 6 nights a week, so I'm able to be editing content after I get home from the school day, and then going to work out, and then I get home and I make my content, trying to engage with the commenters. So he's doing a lot of the things behind the scenes, to help me actually be successful in most three parts of my life.
That's huge. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really huge. And I think that's a big thing to note so I have a coaching business besides the studio. I have clients who are looking for balance, and it's not just about their fitness or nutrition, but it's sort of in all areas of their life, right? To find that balance and happiness. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a key component is, if you have a partner in your life, it's really helpful if they get it and they can help that balance, right? I'm so glad to hear that. So I'm not going to say this is my last question, but I know we're nearing the end of this episode, Andrea. What is next for you? Do you feel like you need to keep evolving? Or are you like, well, if it runs out, it runs out? Like what are you thinking for this juggle of your crazy life?
That is the age old question. It really is because teaching is getting so much more difficult than it was 10 years
Oh,
ago when I started. Making social media content, I love it some days, and then other days I'm like, oh, I can't even stand listening to my voice ever.
yeah.
Um, so that's always the question. This summer, I've taken a little step back on making social media content. Just kind of getting revived back from the past school year was tiring. So
Ooh,
I've just been relaxing this summer, and I'm gonna just jump right back on into it in August. And really, it's just kind of depends on how I'm flowing, really, because I have so many like very very good weeks of what I'm doing. I love teaching. I love my making my content. But then other weeks I'm like, oh no, I don't know if I can do this for another 30 years or
I
whenever
bet.
retire. So
Yeah.
we're gonna just
Go with the
I don't know
flow.
how to answer that question because I love what I do, but I do also know that what I'm doing is not sustainable for 10 plus years of my life just because I get the 3 months off of during this summer break, which is amazing.
Yeah.
The school year, that the 9 month school year is so tiring. And though you say I look like I'm holding it together in the
You
9 months,
really do.
but I am dying. I remember I was like, I told Julian on like a Monday, I was like, I haven't seen you in like 4 weeks. I can't get to Pier Bar on Mondays. It's so hard.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear that you're real because sometimes it's like, how does she do all that?
Oh, I'm
It's
holding it together some days.
yes. And that's real life, right? Hashtag real life.
Well, and you said
Um,
that's part of my day too, because I love like just being able to like de-stress. And Pure Barre is such a great workout, and like
yeah.
everyone there is hyping you up. So I
Well, and that's like huge, right? Like that's what and whether it's Pure Barre or some other workout for my 26 years in the fitness industry, that's what I'm always trying to emphasize. Like it shouldn't be what you dread. Your workout should be what keeps you going, right? And that is like it's your treat of the day. It's what you look forward to. And some of the most successful people I know, you included, make time when it's reasonable to get in their workout. And so I love that that's a part of your life. And Andrea, I guess I'll end us on, and this is kind of putting you on the spot, but I think that there will be people listening who already know you and follow you, obviously, right? And they'll just want to know more about you. But because the whole focus of this particular podcast is motivation, right? It's called Motivated. This is the big age old question, but answer it however you can based on your juggle, not your struggle, based on your juggle. What keeps you motivated to do what you do, to put yourself out there to millions of people, to keep creating and editing the content? Your kids in your classroom mean so much to you. What is your motivator?
I honestly I just love inspiring, whether it be my
Oh,
students, my followers, just like day to day life type things. I've had people tell me that they became creators online because of just seeing me be successful. I've seen people say that they my content makes them want to be a teacher, where you see a lot of like negativity surrounding the teaching career. So I hope that me being an actual teacher, putting out just a different perspective on teachers online can help inspire either just future generations of teachers, or that you can find, even though I'll tell you it's a very stressful life, it's very tiresome, it's you still find joy in the things that I'm doing. So
that's so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing you and your story. I still have 5 million questions to ask you, but I'll save that for the studio. um, but this was wonderful. And this is actually kicking off the 6th season of this podcast. You are episode 1. And part of why I wanted you to be in this first episode is I'm ready to really turn things up myself. I'm more motivated than ever, more inspired than ever, and to keep sharing that with others. You've accomplished that as your goal today, Andrea. You now have inspired even more people. Thank you so very much. And I hope you'll join us again in the near future to keep sharing it. You're absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
All right. Well, with that, it's been another episode 1 of season 6 of Motivated with Liberty. Thank you all so much for joining me. Let's do this.